Okay, so we're going to do our Q&A with our amazing guest speakers. So if Cecily and Ryan could come on up, we'll just move these chairs a bit closer together. Yes, you can have some quality time next to each other.
Fireside chat.
Okay. So,
No, it's fine.
So right now, you guys will have about, say, half an hour session to ask whatever questions that you have to ask these three. And also, you also have half an hour because it's your last chance to buy raffle tickets. Up until now, we've been raffling off Steam games and Microsoft discount cards courtesy of the Yorkdale Microsoft Store. However, next, we are giving away these courtesy of Nintendo Canada. A Nintendo 3DS XL and a Legend of Zelda Link Between Worlds. So if anybody wants to go buy a raffle ticket, this is the perfect time to go do it. Remember, it's $5 for one ticket and $10 for three of them. All right? Oh yeah, and USBs.
And USBs.
Yeah, and Microsoft USBs courtesy of Microsoft Store.
Hey Jordan, can I buy a raffle ticket?
Hey, go ahead. Yes, you certainly can. And you might buy
more than one.
Can I? He has a knack for winning raffles.
You can buy me some tickets.
What? Yeah.
All.
Yeah, but it's anyone's game, so.
Because he took both halves.
Also note that even though this doesn't come with a game, Nintendo's doing a promotion that if you buy a game and register the game and the 3DS before March 31st, so that's next Monday, they'll give you a downloadable copy of Pokemon X and Y for free.
Ooh la la!
So just keep that in mind.
Oh my God, it's better.
You should double the charge for the raffle ticket right now. For the
Shut up,
late
Jimmy.
arrival.
Shut up. Wait till I'm done.
Okay.
Tell me what you saw.
But just so everybody knows, the Game Makers Union, we do actually have several meetings twice a week now. All year we've been having two meetings a week at this very time on Mondays and Wednesdays, so 6 to 9. We do all sorts of things. We do teaching of the various tools that these three have brought up, like Unity and also Ogre and Maya.
Ogre, don't go.
We used Ogre at one
Don't
point.
attend.
It was a very bad choice. We regretted it immediately.
Do not.
We
Yeah.
started over with not over.
Okay.
And also,
It's ogre. It's ogre.
It's over.
Also, it's a good. We actually have worked with the computer science department of Ryerson to install not only get a lab that we use at both times a week. We also have Autodesk software and game development software that any member can use if we're coming to our meetings, and you guys can learn about it. We do teach some of it as well. For example, I teach half people how to use Maya and a bit of Unity, and we try to help people who have a game and maybe want some help with it. So if that sounds at all up your alley, we have meetings Mondays and Wednesdays, 6 to 9.
And if you have a skill and you don't know what to do with it, we'll be glad to give you something to do. It's like,
in ENG 205, which if anybody's not familiar with the Ryerson campus, it's like that little,
It's a glass building.
Glass
Yes,
building,
the
right?
weird-shaped glass building.
Yeah, the weird shaped glass
On
building
the
that's
second
directly
floor.
this direction, right beside Metro. So it's on the second floor, like near the stairs. So 205, ENG 205. If you want more information about us, we do have our business cards right at the front, so you can get more information about us and look at our website and our Facebook group and sort of learn about us when we meet. So without further ado, and because I've been talking too much now, our three guests, Cecily Carver, Ryerson Creighton, and Jim McGinley. The floor is everybody's because now it's Q&A time. So here we go. Hit it.
I come from a very different background. Basically, I took interest in just coding. Even like I started with HTML like back in year 2000, and I've managed to start building using Flash. So I built some Flash animation and Flash moves. Like my first Flash game, it turned into a Flash animation because the interactive part didn't really work. So that was my first failure, I guess. Right now, I'm not in the comp sci program, so I'm studying biology, so it's completely but I still have a knowledge in programming. But I'm just curious, for specific Android development, are there any programs that you would prefer or not use? Anything insight on that?
You use Flash?
I used to. I'm not sure what happened. Like I was part of that kind of Flash age where everyone just started making games.
Yep. You can still use it. I mean, it's not like, oh, they've outsourced it to a team in India, so it's like it still works. It's obsolescence versus obsolete, right? Obsolete means shit don't work no more. Obsolescent means, yeah, it still works, just people aren't using it. So that's more what Flash is doing. But you can use Adobe Air to go to Android. You can use Unity to go to Android. You can use, how many out here, Phil?
GameSound.
GameSound? Can you?
I think you have to buy it.
I thought GameSound was iOS only.
I thought it did it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think, Game Maker, you buy the Android package for it.
Right, GameMaker, yeah. There's, yeah, a few options, yeah.
I'm currently using Android SDK. I'm not sure.
Oh, I don't know.
Or using it directly. The Android SDK is for C, if I'm not mistaken.
You can use it for C or Java.
Ew.
SDK specifically for Java.
That's
C,
gross.
yeah. I mean, you can. It's just more of, even once you mastered the export, then you're gonna have to write C or Java. And if your background is HTML with Flash,
Yeah.
Oh no, I know C++ and Java.
Oh.
But
Well then.
Ironically, I have no background on C. I never really learned it.
See, for me, it's the difference though between going to the hardware store and buying a hammer or getting an anvil and smelting your own
I was
hammer.
gonna say, are you making progress with C, the C++ and the SDK?
I'm using Java now for the SDK, and
Okay.
I'm building an application for it. So,
Okay.
So
yeah.
if you're making progress, just like stay with one. Like,
Okay.
I wouldn't bother switching. But is it because you're stopped? Because you're stopped. Then
Yeah, I do have some trouble with the interface of the SDK. Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out.
There's other stuff that'll get you up way faster. Like, if you're making an app, just use something that gives you drag and drop controls. Oh, I need a slider. Oh, I need an image. Seriously, why? Because so this is the thing, when somebody looks at the thing that you built, nobody can see the matrix behind it, right? Nobody's gonna go, ooh, this is C. Like, nobody gives a shit, right? They want a working thing. And the fastest you can get to having a working thing, that's how you win.
it's similar to note, like the problem with C++ is it's what they use to build Splinter Cell Blacklist at Ubisoft right now, right? And the thing is, they have I don't know how many programmers to build the engine, but it takes so long to develop in C++. Anyone that makes a C++ game of any size then builds another language, which is actually easier, like Game Monkey script. So all their designers are working in Game Monkey, trying to avoid working in C++ because the turnaround times are so low. So you're your lone programmer. You're like, I'm pulling out C++ and Java, which is exactly what they're pulling out at Ubisoft. It's the same thing. And you're like learning how to put it on Android. There's a reason why these engines exist, just to shield you. But again, if you're making progress, this is the thing. If you're actually making progress and you have like you're enjoying Java and you're staying in it, then I would say keep going. But if you're like
Disagree. No way. Here's where the rubber meets the road, Jimmy. ToeJam, right? You go to ToeJam and see what technologies people are using and it finishes by the end of the weekend, right? People using C++. First of all, nobody's using C++.
At ToeJam, no one's using C++ anymore.
You got 3 days, you're not using C++, right? Look at what people are using and then look at the stuff they produce by the end of that weekend and be like, you'll see what's possible. Flash, yeah, possible. Unity, we had some great Unity games this year at ToeJam. Twine, sure, I wouldn't call them great, but they function, right? They're finished. What are some of the failed? Ogre, not a flippin' chance, not gonna happen.
I would avoid Pygame, I know someone mentioned it, just because of distribution woes. It's distribution nightmare.
Oh, what's the Node.js? People were successful a couple years ago with Node.js and some HTML5 stuff, so, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that sheds any light, but that's sort of.
Okay. Could you remind me where it went to again?
It should be the end of April this year, but that's unconfirmed.
Okay, all right. I'll double check.
Because I've late building some stuff that needs to be built. Who is in charge of making the question?
You are.
I'll charge.
Oh,
I will be in charge.
All right, you were talking about motivation before, so I was just curious about when you had mentioned the stuff about like the long haul, you hit a numb, kind of like a wall. How do you overcome that after like a certain period, whether it's writing or whether it's the actual, like, it could be any of you guys.
How, Jimmy, how? Tell me.
See, I'm kind of a bad person to talk to, because I almost always enjoy just It's like whittling to me on a stick. You know, you have the people, you can see like a guy will just whittle a stick. I'll whittle on a game. It just doesn't really, I don't really get demotivated because I've got too many other distractions to worry about. So whenever I can work on a game, it's actually always motivating.
Okay.
That's why it's a little bit different. But I haven't been involved in a grueling, long project like Ryan.
Cecily counsels people. You're like a psychiatrist for people who can't get past their blocks, right? So you know.
Right.
On the short term, I'll tell you about the
Well, I
long
think,
term in a second.
I think one way is to try to almost inoculate yourself, like recognize that that moment is going to come and don't freak out when it happens. Like if you can only work on your game when you're feeling really great and inspired about it, then when you hit that point, you're going to be like, oh, what went wrong? I guess I'm not cut out for this, and you'll stop. But if you're like, okay, I'm going to reach a point where I feel really bad about this, but you know, I'm going to keep going anyway.
What if you're already there?
Having deadlines is
Yes.
great. Having a goal for, like Jim was saying, contests or events to submit to. Game jams are really great for this, just because there's that timeline. You know, basically, be able to remember why you're making it in the first place, and know that there are going to be ups and downs.
Have you, if you're already there, you also have people, I find if you just have people play your game,
Oh, well, I'm meaning personally more like my writing, but like I was just trying to like overall like.
yeah, it's a little tricky for, like I say, for me, for anyone here probably to make writing specific recommendations.
I can make right specific.
Okay. I was going to say though, there was Chris Petrowski from Cappy. He had this presentation at IGA where basically his motto, I guess it might be Cappy's motto, was called "It Gets Better." I think it gets better.
Yeah.
This is the presentation. He goes, "All right, you start on your game, and it's similar to your curve." He goes, "It's great." And it's like, but so he's talking about a 3-year time cycle. He's like, you know, and you're working on it, and then it does his presentation. Like, it fucking sucks. Then you think that you suck because you're the one that had the idea for this, and you're looking at it, and you've got people working on this, and it sucks, and you know that since it sucks, you suck, and I suck, and this goes on for a year. You're in the bathtub thinking you're drowning yourself, and it sucks, and you're the worst. So he's talking about the first month. He talks about how he had a great time, and then the next 2 years, he's talking about it sucks. And he goes, but the key is to remember during this whole period. This is his whole point of presentation. Is it gets better. He goes, so finally, what happens after 2 years? People have been tweaking it for so long that you haven't noticed the incremental changes that have made it better. So in your case, I guess editing and just re-editing this piece. That basically, at some point, and he goes, I think he even said he can't tell you when it is, when that happens. But he's like, at some point, you actually look at it. You're like, wait a minute, this doesn't suck. At some point, everything has added up, where you're actually kind
Sucks
of like,
until it's good is what he said.
yeah. So I guess that's going to happen, and you just have to just keep going at it, and at some point you'll actually look at your work and be like, wait a minute, it's gotten good.
I guess I just found that like for me personally, like, I've had to put my writing on the side for actual jobs that pay me.
Imagine,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Already's a real hard go, but I mean, some tips for writers: kill your babies for anything. Kill your babies. Get an editor. There's a whole talk at GDC. Get an editor.
Yeah.
That could be mom. That could be someone you
My
respect.
dad did,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, your dad, right? Go for somebody who's not your dad. Go for somebody who doesn't love you. Understand, right?
Oh, he's harsh.
Right. Well, yeah, your mom thinks you're cute. You know what I mean? Like, get somebody who hates you. Get somebody who wants you to fail to edit your shit, right? Then you're gonna know, where what happens to your writing. This is the same with testing, right? This is a hot tip for testing. I got into this trap. I give my game to somebody and I'd say, I've been working on it for 5 years, and and it's my lifeblood and my passion, and I got it. So they play the game. What are they gonna say to me? They're like, yeah, okay, right. I guess it's, I like this part, I like that part. Because if they don't say that, they worry I'm gonna be hanging in the closet by the end of the evening, right? Here's what you do when you get people testing your game, reading your writing, whatever. You present the thing to them and you say, hey, so here's the thing my buddy's working on.
Oh.
Right? Here's the thing my buddy's working on. He or she wants me to invest my money, right? He or she thinks that this is going to be like the next big thing. I don't have a lot of money, but I want to put some stuff into it. Can you play this and tell me what you think of it, and tell me if you think that I should go in on this? You're going to get some real, through your lies and treachery, you're going to get some real honest feedback from those people, because, yeah, but once again, they care about you, right? They care about you at that point, and they think that love is not being critical, when real love is actually tearing you a new asshole. That's what you need. That's love, right? But people aren't going to love you. So in lieu of that lie, and so you can get some real honest feedback because they actually care about you in that constructed situation.
My very first book got stabbed with a fork.
Oh, excellent. Good start. Good start. Oh, here's another tip that didn't come out. I like this one too. They tell artists, you got 10,000 bad drawings in you. Get them out now. Right? Same thing with games. Everyone's pressured to make like the greatest game because you see the stupid Damien stuff. It's like, oh my god, he's like a whiz kid. Fucking Damien, Draken, like give me a fucking break. Right? Okay, so there's super talented people out there. What do you do if you're not super talented? You make shitty games, right? And you keep making shitty games until your 31st game is no longer shit. I worked at YTV. I made 50 games. And most of them were pretty shit, right? But I continue to make shitty games. So just make as much shit as possible until it starts to become no longer shitty.
I think one other thing to remember, and this is again when you get demotivated, and this is for games or writing, what's interesting, and I didn't quite realize this, even in school. One thing I hated about school was when I had to take courses where I'm like, this course is useless. I think everybody's taking courses they consider they're forced to, but absolutely useless. And nothing at that time especially, this is for me I guess 20 years ago, would convince me that this course would ever be helpful. So the people that tend to succeed would just take the course, enjoy it, and then basically get something out of it. So basically later on in their life, it's like, oh, it's not a question of like trying to evaluate or like, you know, is it a good course, should I put my time into it? They just do it, and then basically eventually, because the people who plan these courses have put some thought into it, you're at maybe, what would I be doing? Building web pages, and suddenly that course comes in handy, and you're like, man, that sucks that it actually came in handy because I spent a long time arguing how much it sucked. So how this is relevant is you're writing this thing, but you only have one goal in mind, which is I'm going to make this novel or whatever it is, and it must sell. But the thing is, what you don't realize is you're getting better at writing. So basically, if you're doing any blogging, your blog postings are getting better. So suddenly your website starts taking off, even though you're building the ultimate novel. Right? So what's happening is you're getting these side skills that you don't realize.
Yeah.
You're meeting other people in writing organizations, which are just like talking about your book. So your whole basis is just this book. But that's made you contacts that even if the book fails, maybe you've made some good friends. So the trick is, don't just think of it as there's just one goal, and if you fail to meet that goal, everything else is a waste of time, because it never works that way. So for me, I built a bunch of games that, not at gems, but basically have not seen the light of day, probably won't. But they've actually managed to kind of do things for me that I never would have expected. Either they've got some fans. I built a, this is the weirdest thing. They had a joke competition on TIG Source, the independent game source. Basically where they're like, hey, take a modern game and build it like it was built 20 years ago. So I built a version of Shadow of the Colossus in 2D. I built this in a week, right? It's a joke game. So basically I'm like, I just did that for fun because I thought it'd be funny and put it out there. And so the thing is, 6 years later I was at conferences, and I'm like, I'm trying to get a game I care about noticed, right? And they're like, wait a minute, you're Jim McGinley. You built that Shadow of the Colossus remake. And you're like, wow, okay, well, I'm glad I'm known for that. It's just, it's interesting. So again, whatever you're working on, I guess the key is don't just think of it as, you know, I'm building a game. If it doesn't get the IGF, I'm doomed. Because it's not like that. It's just not like that at all.
So for me, the joke game was a game I made at Toe Jam with my little girl when she was 5 years old. And that was Sissy's Magical Pony Corn Adventure, which remains, it's a 3-day game. It remains the only thing anybody's ever heard about before. And people to this day are just like, oh my God, you know, made that game. And it's what I did to blow off steam while I was in year 3 of the now mounting 6-year hellish ordeal that is Spelarium, right? So Jimmy's absolutely right. There's these side benefits to the weird things that you do that you don't know. You don't know.
I picked last turn, someone else
I
has.
thought you were going to be the picker.
Oh, well then.
Be the picker.
I have a question. You were mentioning about the distribution woes of Pygame. I'm wondering what you'd recommend for, is it possible to have like C# with an XNA game playable in the web browser?
Did you say XNA?
Yes.
Drop it. They dropped it. Why are you going to keep?
Well, I mean, now they've got mono
It's their game, by the way.
They've got mono game. people have been porting XNA over to Mono. Is that right? Mono game.
Yeah, it's Mono Game.
Yeah.
Mono Game is like multi-platform, so you can go to any platform, and I think C# is one of the easiest languages to use.
I would say if it's XNA, you're right, totally dead. Ryan's totally right. But Mono Game does change things. Having said that, I'm out of my league to know whether it's good or bad.
I would say it's good, but you got to be more programmer-oriented, I would say. Unity does some things for you.
At the end of the day, the one thing I worry about now more than anything is, can people play my game? And what happens is, this sounds like a very simple thing, but like with Pygame, for instance. Pygame came out and it was really easy for developers to make games with it. I'm like, this is awesome. And then Pygame's like, okay, when we upgrade Pygame to 2.7, we're only going to have one Pygame on that person's machine. So there is no version control, which means that you're going to have to download the new version of Pygame, perhaps destroying all the old Pygames. And it's like, I don't build the Pygame libraries, but that's a stupid idea. So here's the ramification on ToeJam. I have a set of instructions for, do you want to play this game? Download Pygame, download Python 2.4, and Pygame 2.6 for. And so basically, if you're seeing any of that with Mono Game, because XNA was like that.
It's the same thing with XNA. You had to download what the .NET.
I just don't know if Mono Game is like that. But if you're finding that basically they're making distribution impossible, I would say that that is probably your single most biggest criteria for not using something. Because if people can't play your game, I think that's it. I don't care about playing in a browser. I just mean, can I send them an executable and have a chance of them running? Right? And if your answer is, well, with my Mono Game, I have to have them download these. You're like, yeah, you have to set a program. I think that kills it at this, 2014. I think that's dead in the water. Again, unless you're building Splinter Cell. If you're building Splinter Cell, that's different, but no one here is building Splinter Cell. So,
I care about playing in a browser.
if you care about playing in a browser, of course you need something that compiles for browser.
Grandma does not know how to download an exe and run it, right? And I don't, if you're gonna send me your game, I don't wanna deal with your dodgy, I'm a student installer and it's gonna delete half my output, right? Fuck no, I'm not gonna play it. If I can play it in the browser, cool. If I can't play it in the browser, give me a video. That's me. But especially if you're applying for jobs and stuff, and we're talking about working together, I'm not running your exe. It's not gonna happen. I'll run it on your laptop. I'll play it on your computer. I'm not playing it on my computer. Just me? I don't know. It's terrifying. Forget it.
I love it in browser.
Yeah.
So then you can send it to people, and if it's embeddable, people can embed it in their blogs and stuff. It's great.
You, sir.
All right, you guys talked a lot about like the meta of being a game developer. I guess that's really important. And I guess this is a really general question, so it's hard to answer, but I was just wondering your thoughts. About game design specifically, you guys have had a lot of experience. Is there any kind of specific tips about what you think constitutes a good game designer? Things that you thought make things fun in a general sense? Or what kind of things would you avoid building if you knew?
Tons of stuff. There are a couple of nuggets I've learned. Control is fun. So the more control a player has, the more fun it is, even to ridiculous degrees like co-op or pole riders, where you kind of have too much control, you know what I mean? So people really like a short feedback loop. So you do a thing and you get a cookie, right? So a good example of what not to do is you do a thing and the thing's pushing the button and your awesome warrior goes through this big animation of spinning your, if you ever played Lego Marvel, it's the worst. It's like, I'm gonna pick that guy up and throw him around for like an 80,000 frame anime. Fuck, no, I just wanna punch. I just wanna hit this, and the faster I can punch after that, the better I'm gonna feel, right? So control is very good. Miyamoto had this wicked, like when Miyamoto keynoted GDC a few years back, his big thing that I heard people repeating as if it was their thing. My God, you saw the keynote yesterday, didn't you? He said that, I love this, pictures people playing his game, and he doesn't even care what the game is. He's like behind the TV watching people on the couch, kind of creepy, Miyamoto. By the way, Miyamoto is the guy who made Zelda and Mario and Donkey Kong, right, and Pikmin. He pictures, at the end of the day, when the whole game is said and done and everybody's put all the work into it, it's been 2 years or 3 years or whatever, pictures the person's face, and he wants that face to be smiling, he wants that person to be having fun. That's a starting point, right? And then he goes all the way back to the beginning, how we're going to get from here to there. And I thought, That's why you made Donkey Kong. You know, so picture the person's face when you're designing. There's all kinds of rules and best practices for UI, right? So things happen in UX, which is user experience. User interface is UI. So all kinds of rules that you can learn, you can read books on and stuff. Stuff like you got a health bar, top right of the screen. If it's anywhere else, you're doing it wrong, and there's psychological basis to that. If you put it anywhere else, people don't expect it there, and it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't work. You may notice that like a bank machine. I don't know who uses like CIBC or President's Choice. There are, we call it black hat UI. So there's shitty, skeevy things people will do to get you to do things that they want you to do, not necessarily what you want to do. So here's a great example, bank machine. You got 3 buttons at the end after you got your cash and everything. It's receipt time, you got 3 buttons. Like go back and do other banking, print with a receipt, and print with no receipt, right? This button is at the bottom right of the screen. That is prime real estate. Yeses go on the right, nos go on the left. And there's a psychological basis for that, right? So the bottom right is prime real estate for yes confirming a decision, right? They want you to do this one, no receipt, because they save money, right? They don't have to pay for the paper coming out of the machine. They don't want you to do this one, so they put an icon on this one. They put a green picture, so that's even more black hat UI, right? It's like, oh, it's got a picture. I'm more likely to just mindlessly hit the one with a picture, right? So you actually have to force yourself mentally to hit the I want my goddamn receipt button, right? So that's one, and you know, a lot of talks have been done on this. The guys who got the kids to buy all the Smurf berries, you know what I mean, in the freemium apps, you know, they pull all these tricks where what they want you to hit is big and shiny with bunnies dancing around it, even though it says, yes, charge my credit card $3,000. The no is a blue hyperlink that's not even underlined, you know, on this side of the screen, right? So there are best practices for UI and UX that you can learn, and there's even books on stuff like that. A book called Game Lenses, the Book of Lenses by Jesse Schell, which is ways of thinking about design. There's a book called A Theory of Fun by Ralph Koster that you can look at. So there are people, this is called ludology, which is the study of games and game systems. So it's kind of, I mean, if you're an ivory tower kind of kid, you can go read all this ludology stuff and maybe get something out of it.
Here's a question for you though. So is your question, what do you do as a game designer to get better or to prove you're a good game designer?
It's mainly just how can I make a game that's fun, really.
See, what's interesting about that is you might call that an old school way of thinking. So while I would never disagree with Ryan, what happens is I think it's becoming more like, I think maybe it always has been, game development is more like music. So if your goal is fun, what Ryan just talked about with Miyamoto as an example is perfect. But you're starting to see a lot more voices where it's like Gone Home. Is Gone Home where you're walking through a house, looking at someone's life, uncovering it. Is that fun? Is that main goal of that game? Is what Miyamoto would offer for that game, I think, is absolutely nothing. He'd probably kill it, he'd gamify it, he'd jump. So I think what is going to happen more is, it's not about how to make a game fun. It's like, that I think, maybe if that applies to your game, great. But you should be looking at what are you trying to kind of express with this game. If you're like me, you're trying to build a better Robotron, it's pretty clear what you're trying to express. But for you, is really fun the end goal? Is that all you're interested in? And if so, you do have at least a long history of sort of, well, these games are considered fun. What makes them fun? Tight feedback loop, let's say. Some people would argue, again, you'll get lots of opinions. It's a tough thing. So I would almost look at the question more as, what are you trying to do with this game?
If we're talking about commercial success, the game where you're an old lady who walks to the back of the graveyard and dies is not going to sell like Super Mario 3D World is going to sell.
Well, what's interesting is, you know the one about the graveyard?
Yes.
For 2003? So did that company not just keep going and just release Luxurious Superbia and win the Nouveau Award? So the idea of commercial success, here's your problem with that. If you want commercial success and that's what you're seeking,
yes.
You're up against,
and it is.
You're up against the Get Set guys. They've got 2 stunning Disney quality artists, 2 stunning programmers.
Hired by Disney, no less, to
right.
skin their game.
But I'm saying they're also looking to their goal is to make a fun game. They've got people, they've got a company. So if your goal is to make a fun game, you're like, well, that's a little bit broad. What's going to set you apart? Because now you're not just competing against AAAs that are trying to make a fun game. You're competing with Facebook people trying to make a fun game. You're trying to compete against name brand indies trying to make a fun game. You're trying to compete with Ryan and I trying to make a fun game. So basically, I would say fun is too broad. You need something more specific. Like
so
what is?
wait, hold on. So you're saying like make a game about your child who's dying of cancer because it's an untapped market, and you're like,
No, it's like
you get more attention.
No, it's
doing
like
that? Like it's weird. Jump in because you probably have tons of opinions.
Yes.
Well, I think the right question is, may not be, is my game fun, but is my game engaging and compelling?
Sure.
And that may not be the same thing as fun. And I'm actually really interested in, like, you know, the game about dying of cancer, or the game about your childhood, or whatever. I think all that stuff is really neat. When it comes to fun, I don't know. In my community, I don't care about it as much. I care more about, is it interesting? But if fun is your goal, then there are lots of books you can read. There are lots of practical tips and things that people have studied. Like Challenges for Game Designers is a really good book. One thing that's more of a practical tip that I would add is if you're just starting out making games, chances are your game might, you're either setting it to people on the internet, or it's going to be shown in sort of a showcase setting with, you know, a bunch of laptops on a table and people wandering around trying things out. I see so many people with really interesting gameplay who will write out a big sheet explaining how to play the game, or put it all on the title screen, where you have to memorize, like, you know, press set to jump and X to kick, and you know, all these other things. And you should assume that no one will ever read that or remember. And like when I watch people moving around in these showcase settings, and it's probably the same kind of dynamic as when someone is playing your game in a browser, or you know, if you emailed it to them or whatever. If they can't figure out what to do in the game within around 15 seconds, they walk away, they leave. So don't assume anyone's going to read your really detailed instructions. Make sure your game is somehow teaching people how to play it within the game. It's something that a lot of people miss, even if they read all the fancy game design books, and it's really important.
Does that always apply though? I mean, I look at games like Brother, who like it didn't really tell you which the analogs to move.
No, but I'm not familiar with that game.
It's,
but sometimes like
It teaches you through gameplay though. Like,
yeah.
Like you can't get out of that first area carrying the log or whatever without
yeah,
figuring out
but
that
like,
mechanic.
can you figure out how to move? Can you figure out that, you know, there's a door that you should walk through? You know, do you sit down in front of it and say, I don't know what key to press to move forward, and I'm just running around and I have no idea what's happening.
Here's a corollary to that though. You mentioned festivals to showcase your game. Not every game type does well in that setting,
Yeah.
right? I've played a ton of games like E3. I'm like, but it's when I'm at home on my couch in my underpants with a bag of chips that game really shines. Like Spelerium shows poorly where there's like, I don't know, there's butts on this screen and there's like Necro Dancer on the other side of the thing, and I've got this like sit there with a cup of tea and solve word puzzles game. Oh my God, fuck me, right? But you know, so when you're showcasing, I guess maybe think of how your game is meant to be experienced, and like that Dragon Cancer is the one I mentioned about the guy whose son was dying of cancer, just actually died of cancer, unfortunately. But the way his thing went is when he showcased it, he doesn't have the game like out of the screen where people can like watch it. He puts you in like a cave. He puts you in a curtained, cordoned off area with a lineup, and you sit down and you're quiet. He blocks out as much noise as possible, and you can weep. You can sob openly in that velvet cave and usher you out the other side of it, right? So, you know, things to consider when you're showing your game and how it's meant to be experienced.
Soundproof room. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, expensive to set up, but they did their best. You, sir.
Do you guys have any advice on people who are trying to mainly be game designers? Because we're pretty sure, you know, you'd have to first program or art, right? Because nowadays it seems like if you want to be a game designer, well, whoop-de-doo, so does so many other people, and it's really difficult to get into. But seeing as I've read your LinkedIn, so don't mean to be a
creeper.
A
You see that
creeper.
bikini picture
But
on Facebook?
yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Anyway, but what would you need to do to get to that area? And also, like, is there any advice on like what you'd have to do in terms of game design?
Hells yes.
Well, I can speak to just one aspect. Like it's kind of, again, big question. I can't speak to what the AAA companies look for and but basically what I'm seeing is the people I would consider game designers. You're looking at like some of the names you mentioned, like Drawkin. I wouldn't consider his programming skills to be his biggest thing. It's the game designs. The art is, I find his art is good, not great. His programming facilitates what he wants to do, but I would consider him a game designer. And again, did he have to learn programming to become a game designer? Yeah. Did he have to do enough art? Yeah. Damien's the same way. He uses a product, we didn't put it on the list, called Multimedia Fusion 2.
What? It's like not as good as Ogre.
If you want to make your life hard, like, at first it's easy, but if you want to make a game as complex as the Yaga Multimedia Fusion 2, it's incredibly hard. But the thing is, he started off with that. He doesn't consider himself a programmer. He considers himself, first and foremost, a game designer. So what you should be doing, game designer, pull out one of these programs, find one you like, and just keep getting better at it. And it sounds like, what do you call it? Like, well, you know, you kind of want to be removed from that because you're like, well, no, you want the game design as a skill. At least in the indie game communities, game design isn't a skill. It's the game you produce. So if that means you have to hire a team to produce your game design vision, that's fine. But you have to have something to show for it. Another example would be Zoe Quinzel. Do I have her name correct?
Yes. Don't say it 3 times or she'll appear.
Zoe Quinn or
Quinn.
So basically, I don't know much about her background, but she built a game called Depression Quest, which is basically about what it's like to have depression. She teamed up with 2 people to do it. And I would consider her more of a game designer than I would, let's say, a technical expert. But I think she built it in Twine, and this game has like, it's basically, what do you call it?
She got it on Steam too.
Yeah, like I don't want to say done very well is wrong, but a lot of people have played it, and it's been a very good experience for a lot of people. So again, how did she become a game designer? Well, she kind of, I think she went to the precursor to Dame's making games, built a game in Flash, and then just kept at it until basically she could do this. So I think that what you're looking at doing is you have to have a game to show. Doesn't matter how crappy, but there has to be something that you can show. And you'll notice that again, any of the people I've seen, another guy, Tom Sennett, he made a game called Run Man Runs Across the World. It's a cute little happy face game, but if you go to his site, he lists all the games he made. And you can watch as his games, I wouldn't consider them, again, from a programmer perspective, because I'm a decent programmer, I could be like, I could build these. I would just never think to. Like, I don't have his ideas. But if he told me his idea, I'd be like, whatever. They would just, no one listens to game ideas, really. They want to see the thing. But you'll watch as he gets better. Like, as his games go along, it's actually, you'll notice this pattern. Damien's games get better, Drawkin's games get better. So again, if you just want a game design as a pure skill, I don't think that exists. I think it's you pulling out these things, getting your ideas, and forcing them into existence. Not necessarily completed, but just something.
Game designers I talk to these days are not game designers, they're level designers. So they say, oh, I'm a game designer for Ubi. I say, what do you do? They're like, oh, I arrange furniture in, Splinter Cell levels. Okay, so the first piece of advice, don't be a baby, learn how to program. Just suck it up, bite the bullet, and learn how to program. Learn how to program, learn how to program. I didn't want to learn how to program. I was terrified of it because of all my failings in the past and not having anybody help me. There's so many people who have, you got a goddamn magic box that will give you the answer to any question you ask it. I didn't have that when I was 8 years old. I would have murdered people in the face to get that, right? You have a magic goddamn box that you can ask any question of, and it will tell you the answer. And it's especially good at telling you answers to programming questions. Oh my God, learn how to program. Learn how to program. Full stop, learn how to program, right?
I'm just going to just be clear.
If you say don't learn how to program,
No.
I will come over there
No.
to your chair.
You have to be careful. Ryan, in my opinion, with my background, he can't program.
I can't?
He can't.
No, I can't. Suck.
But the thing is, you can learn with these tools. Like, you have to be careful, because when you say program, it's like, are you guys going to go out and learn about object-oriented, inheritance, polymorphism? That's not what we're talking about.
I do know about those, by the way. Don't know what they mean, but I've heard those.
I should say, I'm exaggerating to make a point. But the thing is, when you hear learn how to program, that's going to, if I were you guys, I'd be just completely, with game over. That's not, it's like learn the tool. Indirectly, you'll be programming without realizing it, whether it's Stencil, whether it's Game Maker, who cares? So what Ryan's saying, when I say learn to program, I would just put a little spin on that and be like, learn a tool, a game salad, a game maker to build your game. You will end up having to program as a result. But learn to program that's the end that you'll end up at.
Yeah, I don't mean go crack like C++ for dummies.
Oh God.
Well, learn how to program. well, first thing, cool. The guys who did Gone Home did this awesome talk at GDC that I missed, but I heard it was awesome. And so what they were saying was like how to do a game on a budget. Here's what you do: go like Visa will be downstairs any day of the week. Go get a credit card. That's step one. Or if you got a rich uncle, you're awesome, right? So go get a credit card. Go to the Unity Asset Store, and they've got a million things. Go buy a big pile of things and glue them together and put out a game. Rinse, repeat, right? Because you just buy the pieces. It's like they're like craft kits now that you can just assemble, right? Oh yeah, do it.
In the most recent game jam that I participated in, I had never used Unity before, so I thought, okay, there are a bunch of tutorials on the internet that say learn Unity in 15 minutes, and I'm going to see how much Unity I can learn in the space of 4 hours. And it involved a trip to the asset store. I think for $3.99 I bought
$300 or $3?
$3.99. There's a fully animated little corgi dog that runs around and jumps, and that's basically all it does. It runs around and jumps, and with that plus this tutorial in 4 hours, I hesitate to call it a game, but basically you have a little dog that runs around, and then I got excited and I got a chair and a pizza, and I was like, oh, the dog's gonna jump up on the chair and eat the pizza. It's gonna be great. And when I give my Dave's Making Games talks, and I'm like, yeah, Unity, give it a try, it's fun. And I show them, this dog running around, everyone's eyes get really big, and they're like, that's the greatest thing ever. And I don't know.
4 hours and $4.
It was, it was so little work, and I don't know, like, has anyone seen Soda Drinker Pro? No?
Soda Drinker Pro, anyone?
Is it the HTML one?
It's a Unity game.
Okay.
And all you do is you walk around in these extremely crudely rendered landscapes and drink soda, and then there's really dumb audio over top of it that's like, this is a great day to drink a soda. And I don't know. I think they have a booth
on
at
Steam. This
yeah.
is not a wine review.
They have a booth at PAX. There's been so much written about this game that's like the dumbest game I've ever seen, but I love it, and I always show it to people as an example of
Gone Home
just throw a bunch
won-
of stuff together in Unity.
Yeah, Gone Home just won the IGF, didn't they? Gone Home, they used stuff from the asset store. So do that. Find games that have, if you want to be a level designer, find games that have level editors, and then just go build a whole bunch of really cool levels, and then screenshot those or video them, and then you can do like a video on YouTube talking about the thinking that you put into making these levels. But yeah, you can just it's Lego. At this point, it's Lego, and it's cheap Lego. No excuses, magic box, every answer. Why are you sitting here listening to us make games?
I can actually share something on that. I forgot to mention it. So I worked at Drinkbox Studios for about 9 months, helping port Guacamelee to various platforms. And so how they're set up, this will at least give you some insight into their process. So they have a level designer, and what he does is he pulls up the level editor that they've created, and he builds levels for Guacamelee. That's what he does. So basically, he has not a lot of input into, let's say, how the characters will move, not a lot of input into how the art will look. He is strictly, that's all been done, and he just builds levels with all the stuff he's been given, and that is his full-time job. So I think a level probably takes him 4 months, and then, or he builds it like in a month, and they just beat on him and say this sucks, and then they come back. Jason Canham is his name. He has articles in Game of Sutra about being beaten up, but he, at least at Drinkbox, they would consider him more of a level designer, like to Ryan's point. But while I was there, they had to search for a game designer, a senior game designer, to basically take on what the next games are going to be. And that search, they must have interviewed, and I don't think this isn't private, I don't think. They must have interviewed, I think, 60 people. And each one of the people they interviewed had fairly impressive credentials. I was just like, wow, that's so they had a very strong number of choices to choose from, and they were choosing one. And they found him, and he's great. Exactly his background, I wasn't involved in the process. I just know that it's a very hard, so it's going to be one guy at Drinkbox as the senior game designer and the level designer, and that's going to be probably powering their games for the next couple of years.
The guy at Cappy, Chris Petrowski, he's their game designer, and he's a founder. So he started that company. The guy at Get Set, or the guys at Get Set, they're all founders. They started that company. That's how they got that position. So the most fun, don't pick the most fun thing in game
like
development.
it comes down to you know, the fun part versus not the fun part. The dream is always like, you know, I'll get to a point in my career where I can only do the fun stuff and I won't have to worry about the other stuff. And like,
But
maybe,
you gotta eat shit. You gotta pay
Yeah,
your dues.
there's
I
no
want to
way.
write. I want to be a writer. I've been at it for the 14 years now. Oh God, it's 14 years. But you know, I'm at the part where I can sometimes do writing. I built my own framework. I learned code to do it. I don't want to learn code. I don't want to be a programmer. And now I'm like, clients want me to be this big tech nerd. I'm not that guy. I just want to write games, right?
Speaking on that,
Yeah.
just curious. So if I do want to focus on my writing and my art, how much programming should I learn to compensate for what I'm not?
Just enough.
The amount you need. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The
And no
amount you-
more.
Yeah.
Just
No.
package it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well,
So-
what is that?
And so the way I did it was at YTV, I mentioned they hired me as a game developer, and I'd never built a game in my entire life, right? So this is a rare thing. They said, you gotta make a game for us in a week, go for it. And so I was like, yeah, I don't know how to make a game, but I didn't tell them that. What I knew how to do, this is in Flash. It wasn't even in Flash. Oh my God, it was, what was the stupid thing before Flash?
Macromedia.
No, not Shockwave. Director. It was in Director. I knew how to use Director based on one class I took. That class that Jimmy said, like, when are we ever going to use this? That was the one class that got me my job. So I didn't know how to use Flash, and just for my job interview, I took a thing I had made in that class and I made it in Flash and brought it in and got hired based on the strength of that thing, right? So to make a game. Here's what I knew how to do. I knew how to do a mouse rollover on a thing. I knew how to click and make the playhead go to a different labeled frame. Right? Oh, and I knew how to play a sound on user input. Make a game, they said. So here's one thing I didn't know how to do, and I knew that it would be the key to unlocking all kinds of crazy stuff. I didn't know how to pull a random number, but I knew that if I could pull a random number, man, I can do dice rolls. I can make the game look like I put a lot of effort to it, but I haven't, and it's just, you know, procedural. So I thought, okay, by Friday, I'm gonna learn how to pull a random number in Flash. I'm gonna build a game based on everything else I know how to do. So I made a game. And then the next week, they're like, cool, make another game. You got till Friday. So then, now armed with my newfound knowledge of how to pull a random number, I was like, what else don't I know how to do? So I picked one thing, and I iterated, and I iterated, and I iterated. And by the third year that I was there, learning how to program on the job secretly, I knew everything I would need to know to make games at YTV in 15 years.
But holding that thought.
Yeah.
But
Just one thing. We actually have about 5 minutes.
Sorry, just gonna finish that thought. I guess you're looking at it kind of the wrong way. In terms of, you don't want to look at it as, well, then I have to work at a job for 3 years to get where I need to go. The point here is you should be more like, okay, what are you trying to do? So basically, you've got your writing, you've got a little bit of art. If you've got a game in mind, trim it down. Trim it to like one level, I don't know, or like a WarioWare level, it doesn't matter. And at that point, you should be able to find just enough code or an example or something in one of these tools that will let you build just that and start there. Because if you're like, oh, I'm gonna learn how to program to build this game, right? You want to basically have programming solving the problem. You want to understand what problem you're trying to solve. I absolutely hate when people kind of go and say, I'm going to learn C#, because programming is a black hole unto itself. You could spend 30 years learning how to program, no joke. We'll have nothing to show for it other than the knowledge of how to program. So that's the black hole that people don't realize, and programmers love that, right? Like, I don't understand this myself, but programmers like nothing more than, what's the new programming language that will further abstract C#? It's like, I just don't care. But again, what'll happen is if you don't realize that about programming, you're gonna go, well, like anything else, I wanna learn how to do this, so I'm gonna get a book on this, right? Or I'm gonna go to a website on this. You don't wanna go to a programming website. You wanna know what is the problem you're trying to solve, that you whittled it down to such an easy problem, at least the easiest problem that you can think of to solve, right? That you need to do programming for. So you're like, you know what, I'm gonna bite the bullet. I need to build a room to make this, whatever this is you've got. I need to make a room. The room's gonna have some notes in it, right? Because you're a good writer, so you're probably gonna the room will have notes on the walls. So like, okay, so I need a tool, we're gonna walk around in 3D, hopefully not, try to stay 2D, but you're like, hey, I have to have 3D. You got your minimum requirement, look at some of these tools, be like, okay, Unity, Asset Store, ask some questions, right? Okay. And then at some point you'll be programming without realizing it. The number of people I talk to who are like, I'm not a programmer is amazing. When I'm like, what have you built? And I'm like I'm sure if you talk to Cactus, who did Hotline Miami, he said, are you a programmer? He's like, no, which is helping no one. At some point, you become a programmer without realizing it, and you alluded to that in your...
Yeah, a lot of the time it's more about the logical concepts behind it than it is about a particular language. And when people ask, well, what's a good programming language to learn for beginners? Or, what language should I learn? Like you said, I always think it's the wrong question. The question is, what are you trying to do? And if you sit down and say, I'm going to learn how to program without having an idea of what problem you want to solve, one of two things is going to happen. Thing number one is you get really frustrated and quit. Thing number two is you learn things that don't help you solve your problem. So.
Which hammer should I learn? Instead of which house am I going to build?
To give you an idea, this will blow programmers' minds. Do you care about variables?
Well,
No, only if they solve your problem. So you don't care about variables. Do you care about scope? No, you don't care about scope until it becomes a problem. So basically, there's a lot of stuff where you're like, I got to learn classes. Do you? No. Right? Do you even need to build a class? No. Right? Until you have to. And again, programmers never present it that way. They're like, here's a good book. It'll introduce you like it has int I equals 1. And then you have a for loop. And all this, honestly, you'll be like, okay, you could spend 2 weeks and be like, I'm not sure how this relates to what I want to do, but I'm sure it will eventually. It doesn't eventually.
Get a cookbook. Cookbook's even better. Cookbook is like, here's the thing I want to do. Cool, I'll look it up. There's how I do it. Here's the other thing I want to do. Look up that. Cool, that's how I do it.
And most programmers will tell you you have to learn all of that about programming. They don't.
No,
Oh, God.
eggheads.
You have to learn a lot of brains.
No.
Sorry.
And try writing a game with no words in it. You want to be a good writer. Yeah, seriously, write one language.
All right.
Sorry to
George,
cut you
take
guys
us
off.
out.
Yeah, but we are out of time.
Give me a Game Boy.
Well, first of all, on behalf of the Game Makers Union, I'd like to thank all three of you for coming down to Checkpoint and being our guest speakers. So everybody give them a hand.
And if everyone can give a hand to Jordan for organizing tonight.
So we're going to do our final set of raffle tickets. This is your last chance for the next few seconds to go buy another ticket if you
There's
want.
no tickets left. I looked.
Okay. No, nobody? All right.
Nobody, George. Just do it.
All right. So first off, we're going to raffle Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds, whether you have a 3DS or not. So.
Damn it.
I got a drum roll, please. Okay, the winning numbers are 0, 5, 2, 6, 2, 7, 1.
Oh He gets it, man. That was the rule. He gets it. All right, yay!
And of course, it's really finished.
Says he's unluckiest person alive.
Okay. So the final Super Mega drum roll for the Nintendo 3DS XL. Again, courtesy of Nintendo Canada. So is that game. Come on, everybody, drum roll. I can't hear you. Come on. Okay. The winning number is 0, 5, 2, 6, 2, 5, 1. Yep. And don't forget, if you buy another game and register the game and that on the Nintendo websites, they'll give you Pokemon X and Y. Cool. Nice. Yep. Well, thanks for everybody who paid for a raffle ticket, and also just because all of you guys are awesome for showing up tonight. Everybody who is here will get a
car. No.
I only wish. Everybody here will get a free 1 gigabyte USB key, courtesy of the Yorkdale Microsoft Store. So you guys can get that on your way out. And I actually have notes here because I want to make sure I say everything. Okay. So, who here enjoyed tonight?
Woo!
That's what
We're here though.
Okay, who here was incredibly inspired by everything that happened today? Who here feels like they're just ready to make a game and turn it out right now? Yeah. Really? That's great. I just wanted to say that that's all great. I'm really glad that everybody here has enjoyed the event and was inspired. The Game Makers Union prides itself on trying to make a community at Ryerson that makes games and tries to teach people how to make games and just has fun as well, and holds big events like this, and just have a big community. We do meetings right now twice a week on Mondays and Wednesdays from 6 to 9, so at this exact time right now. And we do all sorts of things. We teach people how to make games, we make games ourselves, and we also try to support people who want to make games. We are also doing a project right now which is a collaborative game, so people want to come in and sort of collaborate or learn how to collaborate, how to have skills so that they can collaborate with the game. We totally do that. And finally, I'd like to also introduce the executives this year for the Game Makers Union, which is myself as the external VP, as well as Ian Estagis right there as our president, Zach Harris, who is our internal VP, and Dante Camarena, who is the educational officer. Who, come on, guys, raise your hand or stand up or do something.
Yeah. I just fix other people's bugs. That's all I do.
Yes, he's fixed a lot of my games bugs as well. He's really great. Everybody is welcome to look at our website or go to our Facebook group to sort of find out more about us and when we meet. We will be meeting during the summer, so even though the semester is ending very soon, we will be meeting. As well. Our business cards are right there, and everybody is welcome to go to our website, go to our Facebook group.
And please check out like TO Jam and Dayton Thinking Games and Untold Entertainment. Yeah, I mean, check out the website. You owe them at least that much.
I was getting to that, but
yeah.
Thank you, Dante. Yes. Also check out Cecily Carver's Dayton Thinking Games, Ryan's Untold Entertainment, Jim's Toe Jam, when that happens in a few weeks. Also, Toe Jam's website, it has Space Invaders on it.
Ooh. JavaScript, HTML4, mobile compatible.
So I'd like to thank our exec team for being awesome this year. I'd like to thank everybody who has helped me set up today, because that was really invaluable. I'd like to thank people who aren't here right now: Richard Lockman, Ramona Pringle, Will Nowak, Ashley Lewis, and Jessica Hossam, who were really integral to getting this space and making sure that I didn't have to go through as much trouble I did last year trying to get a space for this event. I'd also like to thank Emily Chow at the Yorkdale Microsoft store, Matt Ryan from Nintendo Canada, who are really integral at getting us the swag and prizes that we use at this event, like the USB keys you're going to get, the gift cards you got, the Nintendo Canada game and 3DS, as well as Ian for supplying the Steam games, which talk to him if you want a Steam game, so you can sort of set up how to get that. And finally, I'd like to thank Cecily Carver, Henson Creighton, and Jim McGinley for being such awesome guests.
Again? Oh, God damn it.
What? You guys deserve the extra
Splash.
You guys deserve all the thanks. So give them another hand.
Oh, can we also thank our speakers tonight, because they did a fantastic job. Yeah. Yay.
I'd also like to thank every single one of you who came and to this event, because I've been sort of panicking to try and get this thing organized for the last few months, and I'm just like really happy when I see everybody just coming here and enjoying it. And I hope to see more of you soon. I hope you guys come to our events and participate in our and everything that we're doing. And hope this is hope we all can become part of this community here, and we all see each other very soon. Thank you very much for coming, and have a good night.
Hey.